All right. Hi, everyone. Hello. Am I audible to all of you? Can everyone hear me? Perfect. Great. Is anyone in Bangalore and experiencing infinite rainfall? I think it's raining since morning. It has not stopped since then. How is the weather in North India? Is it in Delhi and other areas? Is it hot? Okay. So actually, I didn't have the internet connection today because it was raining a lot and the transformer in my society basically blasted. So we have very less electricity right now. But I didn't want to cancel the session, right? I did still want to make sure we proceed with it. So I have my phone's data that we will be using throughout the session. In case there is any lag or anything, okay, please let me know. Okay, I'll just keep my video turned off so that because when I'm turning it on, it's actually creating a lot of lag, right? And let's see how much we can proceed in the session. If at any point of time we face any issues or anything like that, we will just simply, either reschedule or see what we can do. Okay. All right. Should we get started? Awesome. Let me share my screen. Can you all see the screen? Okay. Close. So this is the interview prep batch. Let me close the screen. Okay, this is our Java view. One second, I've opened some wrong project, I think. This should be the one. Okay. I was wondering where did all the codes go? Okay. So, as you all know, in the last class, what we already did was we started with one of the conditional statements, which was if else, right? And in the second session, or the third session rather, we talked about what is if else, right? How does the concept of if else really works, right? And then what is the concept of if, else if, and then else at the end, right? And then what is the concept of nested if else. Okay. So in today's session, what we are going to do is we are going to talk about another way of using conditional statements, which is going to be switch statements. So today's class is going to be very less theoretical, just the switch statements part. And right after that, we are going to switch to the problem solving session. Okay. So we'll be doing a bunch of questions today, which we will be solving in the session together. We'll start with some easy questions and then we'll make our way up from there. All right, so let's start with our next session where we talk about the conditional statements, right? Which are basically the second one which we talk about, that is switch statements. I will write conditional statements, right? And in that, we are going to talk about switch statements. So let's first understand the syntax. How does it really work? What's the overall idea? And then we'll, see a bunch of examples to understand this idea. So the switch statement basically allows us to execute a block of code among many alternative options. Okay. In simpler words, the people who already would know programming would know that switch statements are nothing but a little bit more simpler and readable way to write the if, else if statements. Okay. So the syntax of the switch statements is like this. So more or less, it is just another way of writing if else kind of statements. How does that work is you write switch, right? You write expression, okay? And then you put these brackets, okay? And you kind of mention multiple cases. So if this expression actually evaluates to value 1, right? I am going to write a certain piece of code and then execute or then put the break statement. What is this break statement? Just for the time being, bear with me for some time, right? You will understand what I'm talking about. Another, let's say the evaluation or this expression basically evaluates to value 2, then some piece of code is will be executed and then we will break. And in the end, we have something of as the default, which is in the if else if world is known as the final else. And this is the default statement, which always executes if none of the above expressions matches. Okay. So understand a few things. This expression is going to be evaluated only once and compared with all of these cases. And whichever case kind of becomes equal to this expression, right, that particular case will be executed. Similarly, how we used to do it in if else as well, right? Whatever was the value of Hotstar subscriptions, whichever value it used to basically matches with, that block of code used to get executed. The same thing over here, but we are writing it in a different syntax, and an additional thing is break added over here. Okay. The break thing, we'll come to it after some time. And the basic idea is, so you remember, right? What used to happen was, for example, the Hotstar subscription value is 10. That means it will not match with any of these statements. So in the end, simply this value will be executed. The same is the purpose of this default part over here. When this expression doesn't matches any of the cases, then the default case is basically executed. Okay, so the working of the switch case statement is similar to Java if else if ladder, right? However, the syntax of the switch statement is cleaner and much easier to read and write. Okay, let me show you a simple example now. Okay. Switch demo PSVM. Okay. Every code executed. For example, I have int number is equal to 30, and I also, let's say, have a string. Okay. And the variable is size and the type is string. Now I say switch, and here I mention the expression, whatever expression it could be. It could be like an equation thing also, or something like this as well. After this, you have multiple cases, right? Case this, right? And if this number, whatever you pass over here, becomes equal to 29, then I will say, let's say the size is equal to small, and then always you have to add break in every case over here. Okay. Case, let's say 42. Okay. Let's say in this case, I would say the small size is going to be medium. Right? It's like, let's say there are clothes available in a Zara store. Okay, let's take the example of Zara. So in Zara, we have different sizes, right? 28, 30, 32, 30. They don't work on, they usually try to give sizes, for example, for denims in terms of, I would say, numbers, right? The size is 20, 25, 30, 36, 40, 40, something like that, right? So we are following a similar ideology and saying that all these cases are there. If the size is 42, that means it's a medium. Let's say if the size is 48, that means it is going to be the large. Okay. Let's say the size is going to be okay. Let's say the size is going to be 50. I'm going to call it extra large, right? And let's say I make it default. Okay. And I say the size is equal to unknown. Okay, so this is the default size. If none of these cases actually matches, the default value will be taken up by the size variable. Okay, so in this case, in the end, I'm just going to go ahead and print the final size value. Okay, or the size string that is over here. So this value is 30. Let's say I make it 48. Okay, and then I try to execute this code. So how the flow is actually working is what I will explain to you very quickly. So you can see the size is actually large. So the code is working fine. How the flow of the code works is you have the number 48. You have an empty string over here, which is size. Now over here, you have this expression, which is number. Okay. Now we will see this number matches which of the cases. It matches this case. No, it doesn't matches this case. It matches this case. No, it doesn't matches this case because the value is 42. Does it matches this case? Yes, it indeed does match this case. The value is 48 and this value is also 48. So the size variable will basically take the value large and then you will immediately jump out and reach to the line 29. So you executed, you checked line number 19, you executed line number 20, you executed line number 21 and you immediately jumped to line 29. And after that you have, I would say, the line 31 executed where the size is large. Let's take another example where let's say the value is 29 and I execute this. So you can see the size is small. What actually happened was the number was initialized. You have the string size. You have this expression. You went to the very first case. The very first case actually matched itself. So you will basically execute this piece of statement. That is, size will actually take the value small. You will break and you will immediately come over here. Okay, so you directly will jump out to line 29 from line 15. You don't have to check the other cases and this is where it will go. And after that, you have the size basically executed. This is what the basic structure of the switch statement is. Kind of, again, like I said, just a more readable way of writing if-else statements, right? Quickly, let me know if this is clear or not. If yes, then I will explain you the purpose of break statements. Like I think answer Fayaz, I just answered that. Clear to everyone? What exactly is switch statements and what's the syntax around this? Everyone is clear? Yes, no, in the chat very quickly. Then I'll explain you what does the break statement really does over here. Just quickly replying, keep replying in the chat, right? So that, you know, I can just move forward very quickly. So first of all, know that this break, which we have written over here, this is actually a keyword. Now, what exactly are keywords? Keywords are certain statement, right? Keywords are certain statements in your program, right? Which are basically reserved by Java as a programming language, okay? So Java says you can use any word as a name for a variable. For example, int value is equal to 10. All of these will actually work, but there are certain words which Java says I will reserve for myself because they have a special meaning in Java. So they can't be used to create as a variable name. Okay. So if you will try to do this, Java will not allow you to basically do that. Why? Because Java basically says some words like break, some words like switch, some words like int. So you cannot make a variable which has the name int. Okay, because all of these are keywords. They are special words which are reserved by Java, because Java says I have a special meaning for them reserved. Okay, so if you will create a variable name again with that same word, it will create confusion. So please do not use these specific words over here. So we have switch. Similarly, you can see default, you can see case, like all case is more specifically working in switch, right? But the idea being that the certain words have been reserved by Java. That is what I would say the definition of break is, right? Now, the purpose of break statement basically over here is, you will see in each and every block of code, there is a break statement basically present over here, right? Now, what does this break statement actually does, right? It will be very clear. I will just show you two examples. Okay, just one example is not enough. You will probably not understand what is happening, but giving you two simple examples, you will understand what exactly break statement does. For the time being, let's do one thing and let's just comment out break statement everywhere. Let's write a code which does not include break statements anywhere whatsoever, right? And let's try to execute this. This value is 29 over here. One second. All right. So you will see in this case, I'm thinking this will not give you a good example because it will change. Let's do one thing. Or let it stay as it is. This example will confuse you. Let me take another example. That will show you a better understanding. Okay, so this example might not be very clear, but this will kind of make sure you understand everything. Switch, expression. No, Akshay, that is what you feel like it's happening, but it's actually doing something else. That is why I'm not taking that example, because it will give you a wrong intuition. I want you all to kind of understand yourself what is happening. That example was a little ambiguous in terms of, like, it wasn't really clear and telling very clearly what exactly is happening. That's why I switched to the example. Let's say we have cases like this. So you can also see that it will not allow you to keep the same value for all the cases, which also makes sense. Okay, so this is a piece of code which does not have break statements whatsoever, right? And let's try to execute this one to see what the output is. First time I am keeping it as 2 only. Let's say it's 2 itself. And you will see what is printed is, if the expression value is true, this is the expression, it tries to match the cases and the output is case 2, case 3 and default. Let's say I'll give you another example and that will kind of help you yourself only understand what's happening, right? It's basically printing all of this, right? Now this, if I do this is basically doing this over here. Now, using these 3 examples, can you all conclude what break statement is actually doing and how break statement was actually helping? If I do 3, then this is printing and this is printing. If I do 1, then all of these are printing. What do you think is really happening? Okay, yes, Harshit, I don't think this is wrong. This feels like a correct explanation. Anyone else would want to give a try what was happening? Exactly. Akshat, I think, gave the exact answer. So what happens is, if you will not add the break statement now, your code would not understand when to break out of a particular case. For example, if I keep the expression value as 2, what it will do is, it will go to case 1, it will try to match the value with case 1, it does not matches, then it will go to case 2, and with case 2 the value actually matches, the expression actually matches. So what it does, it actually executes case 2. That's why case 2 is printed over here, and after that it does not really check any case but just directly prints them. It prints case 3 also, and it prints case default as well. So it will not print anything until and unless it finds a matching case. But the moment it finds a matching case, it will not check all the conditions after them. It will just keep on executing all of them as well. That is why you need a break statement over here. Right now, if you will see, if I will say, or I will put a break statement over here, what will basically happen is, you have case 2, you have basically matched the case 2, your statement 41 is executed where case 2 is printed on the screen, and then the statement written is break. What does break really does? It basically directly brings you to the very end of the code block. That is why the moment you execute, the moment you see the line 42, which has break, you immediately come to line 47. If you do not do that, what will basically happen is, if in the switch statements, your code will basically find a match for a particular statement, right? And then after all those statements which are present after it, it will just execute them. Like, I'll show you one more case. Let's say I put this above. In this case, what will happen is 1, 3 and default will be printed. So anything that did not match before the case will not be printed. This did not print because it was before case 1. But the moment it finds a match, it prints everything after that as well. That is why you need to put, I would say, default, or I would say break statements in the code. Clear to everyone how exactly break statement is helping us in our piece of code? Fayaz, it is clear? Everyone, absolutely clear how break statement is really helping us? You may or you may not put the default, I would say the break keyword in the default statement, because it is anyway executing at the very end, so it doesn't make a difference. It's good to add it, but even if you don't add it, it won't really break your code. Okay, this is what exactly switch statements really are. Okay, if you would like to put in, let's say, an expression also, feel free to do that as well. Switch statement basically works for all of them. In terms of expression, Ragini, you can put any expression you want, but again, in terms of what that expression evaluates to, it should always be one of these cases. For example, here you may also put, let's say, just an example, string day is equal to, let's say, Monday. And if this is what your doubt was, that can I put here this something like this also? Yes, you can. Now, your homework for this is to try out. I told you integer value, it works over here, right? It will give you the correct answer. I also told you that it also works for a string value. You have to see, would it also work if I put a floating point value over here or not? So for character and integer, it works absolutely fine. Try to also maybe try it in a way to see if floating point values work or not. Okay, and then that will help you to conclude if switch statements work with everything or they do only work with a certain case. Clear to everyone? Or if you want, you can just quickly try out right now as well. I don't mind. You can see if everything works or not. Quickly, maybe take 2 minutes, write simple expression, see if it would like help or it would work or not explicitly. When should we use switch statements instead of if else? No condition whatsoever, Akshat. Ideally, we just like to keep our code more readable. Okay, that's why, or that's where we use, I would say, switch statements more. But it obviously comes with a constraint that, let's say, if I put float over here, I put 1.0, okay, something like this. And let's say if I do 2.0, 1.0, 3.0, what you will see is it kind of doesn't like it doesn't allow you to do that. Ideally, it works more with integers and I would say character values. Okay, but in terms of when do we really use this, right? There is no rule as such whatsoever. Okay, feel free to use it wherever you want. Any other questions with this? Anyone? Anything is not clear about switch statements? No questions? Can I get a quick yes or no? Perfect. All right, let's jump on to solve a bunch of questions now. Now we know that exactly what is if else, what is switch. We have worked a little bit with conditional statements. Now we can start solving a bunch of questions, right? To actually understand how does the concept really works. So what will happen is I'll give you a first question. I'll start with an easy question and then we'll move our way up from there. The question one is very simple. Take a user input. Okay, take a user input, and what you have to check is if take a user input which is an integer, right? And you have to check if the input value is even or odd. Okay, if it is even, you have to print even. If it is odd, you have to print odd. If, for example, if the input is given as 4, the output is supposed to be even, like this. If, let's say, the input is 7, the output should be odd. Something like this that you have to do. Very simple question. Most of you should be able to do that as well without any issues, right? So quickly, I would say you can pause here, start solving a little bit. Once you have an approach, you can come back and we can start looking at the solution. Take your time, take 2 minutes, maybe send your answer to me in the chat as well. Then we can move forward. Abhilasha, that is what I just mentioned, that we prefer switch statements because the code is more readable over here, right? And it's easier to express the statements in switch statements. In terms of how they logically work is exactly the same. Switch statements kind of give you a far better visualization of the code that is written. Okay? Nothing else. All right, then quickly start solving this question. Once you have a solution, please feel free to send it to me in the chat as well. And then we will start checking the answers. Please send it to me, the answers privately, so that I can review them and the question doesn't get spoiled for others. And then I will show you the exact or the right way to implement this. Nobody is able to write kya? If you're just writing, just usually write a WIP in the chat. Okay, if you're still trying out the question, that would mean that it's like a work in progress for all of you and you all are still trying. But if you're done, please send your answers to me in the private chat. Okay, I see a bunch of answers. Sayantika, this is correct. Very good. Ronit solutions also look fine. Akshat's solution is also correct. Very good. Abhay has also sent in a solution. Abhay, it is fine as well. Very good. Same for Paras. Just waiting another minute. Okay, let's see. So over here, I think the printing part, if you will look at this question, the printing part is not that difficult, right? You just have to print the number as even or odd. The logic here that you have to identify is that for an input integer value, how do you really differentiate whether a number is even or the number is odd, right? So a very simple property, a very simple mathematical property that is associated with numbers, especially integer values, is that even values are divisible by 0, right? And they will give you the remainder as 0. For example, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They're all multiples of 2, right? And for example, odd values are not, sorry, this is by 2. Odd values are not divisible by 2, right? This is a very simple property that identifies, or I would say differentiates between even and odd values. So what I can simply do over here is I can make an even odd class. Okay. And like I told you, I need the user to give the input. So it would be something like this, where I'm creating a scanner class, right? And after that, I will take the input from the user, right? And over here, since I'm taking an integer input, so it will be scn.nextInt, right? And post that, I will simply check if the input is basically divisible by 2. So if a particular value is divisible by 2, that means for sure the remainder is going to be 0. So if the given input value is divisible by 2, what I am going to do is I'm going to simply print even as the output. Otherwise, what I am going to do is I'm going to print the value odd, which simply represents that if your number is divisible by 2, meaning or implying that the remainder is 0, that would mean your output is even. Otherwise, your output should be odd. Let's see if this works fine as well. So I give the input, let's say 24. It says even, which is indeed fine. Let's say I give the input as 13. It gives the output odd, which is correct. The output is indeed odd. So this is how you can identify from the user input whether a number is even or odd, and based on that, print the final output. Clear to everyone? Anyone who's not clear, can I get a quick yes from all of you in the chat very quickly? Awesome. If we will maintain this speed, we'll actually be able to do a bunch of questions. Dinesh, have you not attended the first 2 sessions? If you have not attended those sessions, you will not understand the scanner class and everything. If you have, then you would know in detail. We have had a detailed discussion. So go for the time being, I can say just assume that this is something that you will have to take to, I would say, in order for you to take the user input, right? And you can obviously watch the recording to understand about this, okay? Guys, please do not come to classes without having watched the previous classes. These are all beginner classes, so it does require of you to be, having attended all the classes to maintain the flow, okay? Perfect. Let's move to the next question. We will be having a proper assignment for today's class as well. That's why I am solving a bunch of questions so that, you have a good understanding on the questions which needs to be done as well. Okay, so the next question is again sort of like a mathematical question, right? The question says that you are given, right? You will be given a triangle, basically has 3 angles inside it, right? So you will be given the 3 angles of a triangle, right? And you need to check whether a valid triangle can be formed from those three angles. Okay. For example, I give you the input as, let's say, three values. Either you can again take this as a user input, or you can, I would say, hard code this, I would say, values as three different values as well. Although better to take user input and then try. Let's say the user input values are 60, 30, and 90. So in this case, the output should be exactly saying valid triangle. Okay. For example, if let's say the input is 90, 20, 30, something like this, in this case, the output should say invalid triangle. Okay. So the question is very simple. You can basically take three values of input from the user, or you may as well hard code these three input values as well. You will be given, these represent the three angles of a triangle which forms the triangle, and you need to check whether a valid triangle can be formed from these three angles or not. If it is possible to do that, you are going to write true, or you can write in over here valid, or you have to write invalid if in case that doesn't. Okay, so this is what the overall question is over here. Take 2-3 minutes or maybe 5 minutes max to try solving this question. Okay, again, send your answers to me in the chat. I would really like to see what you all are thinking and how you all are trying to solve this question, and then we will see the answer together. Okay. You have to do it right now only. Okay, so try to think in that way only. Anya, your solution will work for most of the cases, but not all of them. I am privately sending you a case for which your code will not work. And I think you'll be able to figure it out and then modify it accordingly. Ronit, can you copy paste the solution over here instead of sending the file? Rohit, same thing you have done as well. I am sharing you a case in the chat for which your code will not work. Guys, again, these are the things which will make a difference in interviews, right? How do you really differentiate your code? And all of them, all the students who have sent their code so far, all of them are doing that mistake. Trust me, I'm sending the same case to all of you for which your code will not work. And you'll just read that case and you'll feel like, oh, why didn't this strike me? And that is a very valid, input also. Correct? Rohit, Puneet, Anya, your codes will not work for these cases, right? Same, Harshit, you're also missing out on a case for which your input will not work, or for which your code will not work very specifically. I'll give 2 more minutes for everyone else to quickly try as well, and then I will show you all the solution. Lokesh, your code will also not work for a certain, input, for certain kinds of input. Try to think about those. All right, let me kind of, now that I hope all of you have given a proper thought, let me kind of help you with the understanding of how this question could be solved, okay? Now over here, what would all of you were kind of already would be able to think is that a very simple condition you must have studied in your school as well, that in order for a triangle to be a valid triangle, the sum of all sides of a triangle should be 180, right? And that is correct. That is, I would say, absolutely correct as well. But what you also need to add on top of that is, for example, if I just consider this condition, and if I give an input like this, what your code will actually do is it will just give you the output valid, correct? Because 90, 0 plus 90 actually does make up the sum 180 over here, right? But again, this is not valid. Why? Because the condition also states over here that for a triangle to be completely valid, right? Obviously, the sum of all the sides should be 180. Along with that, you also need to make sure that every side angle is greater than 0. This is a very, very important condition, which sometimes many of the students do miss as well while writing the code, and which is very, very important to kind of include in your code as well. Okay, so what we'll do is, along with taking out and finding out the sum of all the angles, right? We are also going to check an additional condition and make sure that all angles are greater than 0. Okay, so basically to check that all the angle values are greater than 0 in this case. So let's say I do new, I do class, I do valid triangle. Over here, either you can again use the scanner. Okay, over here, we can do all the 3 angles as import the scanner class, next int, int b is equal to scn dot next int c is equal to scn dot next int. Okay, once you do have that, what we will do is we'll kind of find out the sum over here, which is what the sum of all the angles a plus b plus c. And we will check if the sum is equal to 180. This is the equality we are checking, as well as the double AND is to make sure that the conditions are valid. A is greater than 0, as well as b is greater than 0, as well as c is also greater than 0. In all the situations, what we can simply say is this is a valid triangle. Otherwise, we can print that this is a invalid triangle. Okay, so this is how you can check the validation. Now, if let's say you will try to run it, you will see that all the conditions are basically being taken care of. So this is completely invalid, which actually does make sense over here. If let's say I do 90, 0, 90, even this is invalid, which is actually correct. And then if I do 60, 30, and 90, it shows valid triangle, which actually is the correct answer as well. Okay, so make sure these small mathematical concepts are clear to all of you, because they actually come in very handy while solving programming questions as well, right? So most 90% of the students do know this condition that the sum needs to be 180, but this another condition is also very equally important, that all the angles should be greater than 0 as well, right? It won't make sense to have any other values apart from this. Okay, so this is the question, valid triangle. Clear to everyone? Absolutely clear to all of you? Can I get a quick yes in the chat? Awesome. We'll move to our next question now, and then we'll take a quick break, okay? So next question is, you will basically be given an year, right? And you have to print whether that year is a leap year or not. Okay, now ideally the good thing would be that you remember the condition by default, that whether a year is a leap year or not. Okay, but if not, I give the liberty to feel free to use the internet over here as well, right, to check out the condition and then maybe write the code on the basis of that, right? For example, if in the input I give you the year 2014, right, this is a leap year, right? So the output is going to be, let's say, leap year, right? And along with that, let's say I give you the input as 2016, right? Or rather, let's say 2020, right? In all of these cases, you need to print not a leap year. Similarly, 2017, 2015, all of these are also not leap years. Okay, just to reiterate, you have to just give in a year, you have to check whether it's a leap year or not. Feel free to use the internet as well to understand the logic. How come a year is called a leap year or not? Although the better thing would be that you know by yourself and then you start writing the code, right? And even if you refer the internet, don't look at the code, just try to know the logic and then try to convert it into the code yourself. Go ahead, start solving this, take another 5 minutes, and then we will discuss the answer. No, 2014 is not. This is 2004. My bad. "2014 is not a leap year. I mistakenly wrote that. Or maybe I jumbled, I think, both of them. You can either wrote it as 2016 or like you can also maybe write it as 2022. That is also not a leap year. No, Lokesh, that logic doesn't work. Like it's not that simple of a logic. Bishop solutions is correct. No, Dinesh, this is also not correct. The logic is not this simple. Again, Rohit, this is also not a correct solution. Like I said, guys, feel free to refer the internet, okay? Harshit, no, this is also not the correct solution. And no, Puneet, this is also not the correct solution. I think Puneet has sent something else now as well. No, this is also not correct. Guys, I think like we can conclude that all of you don't remember how exactly a year is considered a leap year and not a leap year. So feel free to refer to the internet, okay? You'll get the exact definition of what a leap year is. Again, Abhilasha, not correct. Guys, this is not the correct solution that you're actually sending in. So please refer to the internet to check how a year becomes a leap year and or not a year. No, Rohit, this is also incorrect. Lokesh, again incorrect. Not a single correct solution so far in the session. No, Akshat, that is also incorrect. And also so many ifs are not required. No, Aditya, this is also incorrect. Not a single right solution in the chat so far. And we are doing if else right now, the most basic questions. Nope. All right, let me help you out all now. Okay, so I hope all of you kind of got a good thought on how exactly, you can try to solve this question, and let's see how we can solve it together now. Okay, so if you go by the very basic definition, right, I'll maybe write it over here only directly. So the basic definition says a year is considered a leap year, okay? And leap year has a special meaning to it. A year is considered a leap year based on two things. First, if the year that is mentioned is exactly divisible by 4, okay, and not divisible by 100. Okay, that is the first condition. And then it says, or if a year, if any year is divisible by 400, right, then it is a leap year. This is what the simple logic is to identify whether a year is leap year or not. Okay, now let's see the code for this. Now that we know this, it should be very easy. Again, you can have the scanner class. Keep using scanner class initially because then it tries to help you to learn the syntax as well. Okay, int year is equal to scn dot next int. Okay, so in this case, you just have to convert this English statement into programming code. We will write if a year. So there are two conditions, first of all, separated by or. So this will be condition number 1, condition number 2, right? Two conditions. This is how I like to break down questions when I'm doing. This is condition 1, this is condition 2, and there is a or in between both of them, right? If any of these are basically true, right, it is a leap year. Otherwise, it's not because of the or. So either 1 or 2, any of these conditions are true, it will work and call it a leap year. Else, we already know that it is not a leap year. Okay. Now over here in this case, what will happen is it says, first of all, check the second condition, the easier one. If the year is divisible by 400, so we are doing year mod 400 equal to 0. This will check whether the year is divisible by 400 or not. Okay, just give me a second. Someone is at the gate. All right. So over here, the first condition was, now here again, inside this also, it's like a nested wave. There are two conditions inside this as well, right? Which has a and between them. So this is one condition. Year is exactly divisible by 4 and not divisible by 100. So in this condition also, there are two conditions which are divided by and. Okay. And this one says year is divisible by 4. Year mod 4 is equal to 0. The second one separated by and, it says not divisible by 100. How do you test not divisible? By not equal to 0. So this is how exactly the condition is formed while writing. And this is how usually when you come across the code as well, you should also try breaking down the code when you see a lot of and or conditions. And then it says it is a leap year. I'll try to run this as well. Okay, for example, I sent 2004. It is a leap year, right? I try to send 1996. It is a leap year, right? And maybe let's say I try to send 2023. It is not a leap year. Okay, so that is how you have to kind of check the conditions and break down of the process of writing code as well. This question was less about logic in the sense that, you knew if it was a if-else question, and you also knew that some mathematical conditions were to be applied, right? The main objective for me to define this question was to help you write how do you accommodate multiple conditions like this. Okay, so it kind of tries to break down this question in a hierarchical manner. First, there are two conditions separated by or, so that's why I put or. Now in the first condition also, inside it there were two more conditions separated by. So this is how you should write the code, by using appropriate brackets so that you never do any mistake. Clear to everyone? And I hope this helps you to actually understand and start breaking down complex logical statements as well. Can I get a quick yes in the chat from everyone? Any questions, any doubts? And I think using this, all of you will be able to write the code now. Paris, you can, now that I've shared the solution, right, you can go ahead and check whether your code is working on all cases or not, right? Or maybe try submitting it in an online compiler, although it looks like this will probably not satisfy, because when you do if inside if, that is more or less like and, correct? For you are saying a year is leap year when when the year is divisible by 4 and divisible by 100 and divisible by 400. The condition is it should not be divisible by 100. So I can clearly see even like this is not there, correct? You have said that the year should be divisible by 100. The condition is the year is not divisible by 100. Okay. For basic cases, your code might be running because usually 90% of the cases are taken care of by the fact whether the year is divisible by 4 or not. But there are corner cases which kind of tackles to these situations. Clear to everyone? Yes, no? Awesome. Should we take a quick break and then come back from a 10 minutes break and solve some more questions? Till that time, if any of you does not want to kind of quickly refresh, please go through the codes that we have already written, okay? And try to basically see what exactly we are doing. Okay. So it's 10:17 right now. We'll meet back at 10:27. All right, everyone is back. Should we take up our next question? Okay, so moving on from here, our next question is that you will be given 3 integer values, okay, as an input, or in the form of input rather. You will be given 3 input values or 3 integer values, and you have to find the maximum of the 3 of them. Okay, for example, if in the input you get 10, 20, and 15, the output is what? 20. If in the input you have 20, 45, 60, the output is going to be 60. Okay, so this is what you have to do over here. You have 3 integers values and you just have to print the maximum one out of all. Now you can try to think, how would you solve this one? Question is clear to everyone? Awesome. Now start to think how you can do this. Take 5 another minutes and then we will discuss. Okay, so Rohit's solution is correct. Aditya, are you sure this will work? I am not sure in this case. Oh no, it will work. Okay, yeah, this is fine. Correct. I see this one's a little bit on the easier end, I suppose. And all of you are able to do this as well. Very well. Should we take a look at the answer? Okay, so let's take a look. Although there could be multiple ways to solve this question, right, of how you want to go ahead with the approach, right? I'm just going to discuss one of them, right? And you will be able to understand very nicely. So what I will do is, in order for an element to be able to call as the maximum element, it should be greater than both of the other elements. And only in that particular situation, we can call that element as the maximum element. So that is what I just spoke of is what we are simply going to do. Okay, so maybe I'll take up this code over here because I also need 3 integer values. Okay, and what I will say is if A is greater than or equal to B and B is greater than or equal to C. In that case, I may say that A is the maximum value. Okay. In the other case, I may say that if B is greater than or equal to A and B is greater than or equal to C, I may say that B is the largest element, or in the else case, I can definitely say that C is the largest element. Okay. Like I said, I saw some of you kind of coming up with a different approach as well. That is also perfectly fine. You may as well write a different logic, but make sure in the end, it kind of reciprocates the same thing which is written over here. So if I do 10, 25, the output is 20, which is correct because it is indeed the maximum value. Let's say I do over here, this is A greater than equal to C, okay? 10, 5, 40. My bad, I actually added a backward slash in the end. So 35, 40. The answer is, okay. So this is how you can try to find out the maximum of 3 numbers. Clear to everyone? Okay, so for the next part, understand that the objective for this session was to kind of know what kind of questions can come in using if and else. Usually, if it's a very basic if else question, you would see that it would just involve less of programming and more of maths. How they're trying to test your mathematical logics, okay? That is what exactly will happen, right? And apart from that, right, there could be like a bunch of more questions that can come on top of it, which you can obviously try, and I will put in as homework problem as well. For example, you will again be given 3, let's say you will be given 3 sides of a triangle, and you need to check if it is equilateral, or it is isosceles, right? Or it is scalene or scalar triangle. Okay, so questions like these are also, or they also kind of come up a lot, right? Or they could also basically ask, whether, let's say, you have been given an alphabet, right? Whether it is a consonant or it's a vowel, right? Questions like that also come up. Or it could also ask that, let's say, you will have to write a program in which, let's say, you will be adding, or you will be writing the week number, right? And corresponding to that, you have to tell the day. Or you will have to, they will give you the week number. Let's say, given the week number, find the corresponding day of the week. For example, if the input is 1, the output is Monday. If the day is 2, or let's say the day is 4, the output is Thursday. Okay, so I feel this is again very straightforward. You may as well use if else if to kind of write the code over here, or you may as well kind of, I would say, can use switch statements also for writing the code for this one. Okay, but the overall idea being that you should know exactly what questions can come up using if else. We have done, I think, approximately 5 questions in today's session, or 4 to 5 questions in today's session, right? There will be another 4 to 5 questions in as a homework problem as well, which would sufficiently cover all the basic questions which can be asked on if else. Clear to everyone? Okay, so we also, I think, wanted to discuss the concept of expressions and statements. Okay, I'll just quickly kind of go through them as well, because I think we have done switch statements, so we have a fair idea, right? When we say, like I said, right, here in switch, you have to write an expression. Okay, so expression is nothing but something that consists of variables, operators, right? Something like that. For example, like this is also an expression. For example, if I write num1 equal to num2, something like that. This is also an expression that returns a Boolean value. For example, I write num1 is greater than num2. Okay, so this is also a string expression. So a Java expression consists of variables, operators, right? And basically, they kind of be of any type. For example, this is also an expression, right? And this is also a correspondingly expression. Okay, there is another. So this is what we call as Java expression. Okay, if you have to ever kind of define, although these are quite implicit terms, so there is like no question that comes on it, but you should know these. Similarly, we also have Java statements, right? What are Java statements? Java statement is basically, or any statement is defined as a complete unit of execution. Okay, for example, int match or int CSK score is equal to 170. What does that basically mean over here is, it is a complete unit of execution in itself. It is not really dependent on anything. Okay, and the complete execution of this statement basically involves assigning a integer value 170 to a variable CSK score. Okay, so you can say expressions are nothing but a part of Java statements. Okay, every expression is sort of considered as a statement only. Okay, I hope it makes sense to everyone. Yes, no. And also know that whatever you write between two braces is known as a block of code. Okay, so far we have been using switch statements where we have been writing code in between all of these. So this is known as a block of code. Similarly, if you will go back to your if-else statements also, you always write between a code of in between a block. Okay, and in case, to be honest, this is also a block. Like whatever you are writing after PSVM until the very end is also considered as a block. Okay, so this is what is about the entire theory or journey of conditional statements. Okay, where we have two different types of statements to kind of control the flow of how code works. We have if-else statements, and along with that, we also have switch statements. Okay, now moving on from here, if everyone is fine, we can quickly discuss the agenda for the rest of the week as well. Okay, so Tuesday, today we had a class which is on 30th of May. Okay, next we have a class on 2nd of May, I believe, right? And then we have a class together. Not, I think this is 1st of June, है ना? I believe this is the 31st month, correct? Right, so that means this is there, and then we will have a class on 3rd of June as well. Okay, today's class was, as you know, is 9 to 11 only. This class will basically focus now on moving to iteration statements, where we will talk about for loops, while loops, do while loops. We'll also talk in a little bit more detail about break statement and continue statement. Okay, and after that, the session will also happen 9 to 11. We will ideally try to cover all the different types of iteration statements in this class itself. Okay, and then after that, we will keep a problem solving session. Okay, on iteration statements. Okay, this session will happen on Saturday from 12 to 2. Okay, and you would know, and for today's class that we did, there will be a homework that will come. There will be a bunch of homework problems that will come that you will have to solve. 2 of them I already showed you in the class itself. Okay, I'll be adding a bunch of more as well, which you can try to solve, right? For the Thursday class, there will be no homework problems as such. I will try to add a quiz for this class, okay? And maybe the concept of using if-else as well, I will write another quiz, right? And then, yes, it is PM. Like, don't worry, I'm not gonna, Sarvana, keep you awake at 12 a.m. Okay, and after that, for this session also, you will be having a bunch of homework problems to solve. I'll try to add more quizzes also if I can, right? But you can expect, like, for theoretical classes mostly to have quiz, for problem solving classes to have questions. Did you all do the quiz for the basic variables, data types and operators one? I added that in the platform itself. Were you able to take it? Or how many of you scored a 8 on 8? Anyone who scored full marks and no negative marks? So there was negative marking also. I kind of wanted to simulate the real way of how it works. So that's why I added a bunch of negative marking. Anyone who was able to get an 8 on 8? Or most of you didn't attend only? First, I want to know yes or no. How many of you did take the quiz and how many of you did not take the quiz only? Yes, no, did that, did not do that. Guys, I would need a reply in the chat. Guys, please take the quiz if you haven't, okay? The quizzes are very important. They help you analyze as well. And by the end, if a bunch of people do take the quiz, it actually kind of creates a leaderboard also on how exactly did you do and how did others also do on that.
Okay, I see a bunch of people got 8 on 8. Very well, right? I'll be adding a bunch of more as well. Please make sure you take up all the quizzes over the course which are being uploaded. Okay, these are for you guys only. I already know all these concepts, so I don't need to do the quiz and everything. These are just for you to kind of brush up your basic concepts and to make sure that the theoretical part that we did in the class actually makes sense. Okay. Puneet, there is no option right now to download the notes. Okay, I think on the platform, it just allows you to view the notes and not download it. I tried adding a bunch of notes on the GitHub, but it kind of breaks the pixels and it doesn't give a very good simulation on how the notes should actually appear in the PDF format, right? I'll see if we can maybe upload it on Drive. Till the time, just follow the notes which are already uploaded. I think in a few days, I'll figure out how to kind of give you the functionality to download notes offline as well. Okay. So I can do that, Puneet, but that will kind of be a little, lost under everyone who will be sending the messages. Either I will make a section specifically where nobody else is able to send a message and only I am able to do that, right? But I ideally want a centralized repository for everything. So let me just check on that. What are the different options available? Otherwise, Discord is obviously one we have. Okay. Anything else anyone wants to ask? Everyone had a good time kind of completing and understanding the concept of conditional statements and understanding how each and every concept works. For beginners, syntax is very, very important because you are new. Maybe you are new to programming. You'll face some issues initially understanding the syntax, where to put the brackets, where to put the braces, right? So with more practice, right, the more questions you'll solve, the more comfortable you will become. Okay. So if nobody has any other questions, we can end the session for today. Nothing? All right, then. Let's just keep it at here. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for attending the session. I will see you in the next one, which is Thursday, 9 p.m. Okay? Thank you. Bye. Good night.